Hi there and welcome back, where today we're going to be continuing our track-by-track review of the new album EP thing, Unleash by Band-Maid, by talking about the song Isle. And, you know, Isle is one of those songs where when I first saw the prospective list of tracks for this record, I was looking at it thinking that's the most mysterious one. I don't really know. I mean, Isle, spelled I''LL, it kind of feels like, okay, there must be something personal to it, kind of a feeling of personal I will, like some sort of intention behind that. But when you say it, it's just a syllable, Isle. It doesn't leave much of an impression. It kind of zooms by and you can hear it as like Isle as in aisle in the supermarket, or if you're English, like the Isle of Wight, the Isle of Man. It's one of those names that it's very understated, and yet it feels like it has a lot of purpose. And that, maybe I'm reading too much into it, is kind of interesting because it comes up a lot in my review. So shall we get on with me actually talking about the song? Let's start by talking about the song structure. Okay, well, let's get some of the obvious stuff out of the way first of all. As wonderful as it would be to sit here listening to me gush about how amazing the musicianship is in this song, we kind of already know that. It's a Band-Maid song. The musicianship is always amazing. Yeah, Misa just gets better and better at bass every single year in the way that she integrates what she does into the songs. Brilliant. Psyche gets more and more amazing. Akane, brilliant at interpreting the songs. We'll come back to that a little bit later. But first things first, we know the musicianship is great. However, this song is more about a simple approach. In fact, upon first listens to the record over and over and over again, this always came across as being the simplest song. The slow chord progressions kind of made me think this is something that is very nice and simple. It's got a beautiful melody, and if you stripped it all back and just maybe strummed it on an acoustic and just played it on a few piano chords, it would make a beautiful ballad as well. Despite its rock feeling, it's just kind of got a simple melodic like structure underneath. And yet the more I listened to it, I did kind of realize that there is something of a interesting cleverness, I guess we shouldn't be surprised, to what makes up that particular song structure. So let's start with the verses. Now the verses of this song are probably the simplest thing that appears on this entire album, and that really it's just a bit of chugging going on the guitars. The drums are not doing much. The guitar's just doing a sort of a free chord thing that repeats, but it's just there building a bit of tension. Your ears are more focused in on what Psyche's doing vocally, giving a sort of a melody that itself starts kind of brooding and quite low. We get into the pre-chorus. The pre-chorus again just maintains the key, but now moves to a bit of a riff instead of those chugging chords, which are getting a little bit of riffing on the guitar. And then when you shoot into the chorus, that's when it all comes together. It's about building up tension for that chorus, building up a sense that there's something emotionally that needs to be paid off. And the chorus does it brilliantly. In fact, the chorus is actually much more interesting than itself. It probably appears on first listen. See, the chorus does something that it's not totally unique here, but it's something that we don't hear so much in songs that are as admittedly catchy as this one is. It does get stuck in your head. First of all, it starts by going up in the key. We start the chorus in a slightly higher key than we left the verses, and we were maintaining throughout that verse and pre-chorus. We go up a key. The song builds up the intensity there, and then the chord pattern, rather interestingly, never repeats. Sounds fairly simple, but considering that most catchy choruses have at least some degree of repetition in the chorus chord pattern, this doesn't do it. Yes, it does go back to some of the chords, and yet you could really pick it apart and you could find some ways of saying, oh, it uses the same chords twice here and there, but it never just repeats the same thing. As I say, the chord progression speeds up halfway through. It doesn't just sort of go back and repeat the same four chords. It's a chorus that really feels that it goes from point A to point B as an entire journey. And the vocal melodies does the same thing again. It's not just repeating the same lines to get them lodged in your head like some of the most earwormy songs will admittedly do. This is a chorus that is just one singular progression from point A to point B. It starts, it goes through that melody, through that chord pattern, finishes, and then the song carries on with the next verse. Every time we get the chorus, we get that. And that, to me, is really brilliant. I like that. It goes back to that theory that works so well, that can make a song sound so understated when the song itself is just basically a good chord pattern and a good melody. And the chorus is just how it pays that off. The rest of the song is even simpler still, just because it's building up to that payoff in the chorus. So yeah, I really enjoyed the way that the chorus worked here, and I enjoyed the fact that the song was a simple idea that didn't need to be too flashy. It just did the right thing to deliver a memorable melody with a great chord pattern underneath. Oh, Howard, are you calling Band-Maid simple? No. I think I said I was going to come back around to the musicianship. Anyway, as mentioned, I'm not going to talk about any sort of twiddling or how great they are technically at playing their instruments, because we already know that. No, instead what I'm going to talk about is something that is admittedly still fairly well known about Band-Maid, but perhaps doesn't get talked about enough, and that is the fact that on this relatively simple song, what they do so well is use their power of interpreting the mood, interpreting the feeling of the song. Now, one of the reasons that, one of the examples of that really worked, hashtag no bias, was Akane on the drums. As always, her greatest skill to me has always been her ability to interpret the mood of the songs. And she does so well here in that she doesn't play anything too much in the verses. It's fairly simple. She keeps the beat kind of stripped back, and then when she goes into the chorus again, we're not going for anything overly complicated. She just kind of ups the intensity, ups the pressure of the kicks, goes a little bit louder. The beat throughout this entire song is relatively simple, but it's more a case of just sort of turning it up and turning it down, both in the intensity of what she plays and just this sort of number of little things that she adds, rather than going for any particularly complicated rhythms. When we get into the bridge as well, to keep things fresh, we go for sort of a rhythm that's very much on the toms. She keeps that going throughout pretty much the entire bridge and gives it kind of almost like a I want to say like a tribal sort of military feeling, that everything's rumbling. Again, it's a simple technique. I'm sure that she's playing this pretty much with her eyes closed, but she knows that it's the right thing to build that feeling of, okay, we need a sort of intensity here without going overly complicated, just delivering the mood through the feel. Psyche, again, she's getting, I feel like her vocal performances have improved year after year after year, but one of the things that I really love, and is becoming more and more evident in her singing, certainly since Conqueror, is her ability to convey emotional intensity. And that is very important to a song like this, which, as I say, is so prominently focusing in on the vocals, really allowing the vocal melody to be front and center in the song. She does a wonderful job here of conveying that emotion, going through the sort of brooding feeling in those more intense verses, and then blasting forwards in the louder choruses to really throw her voice in and give her sort of power and an emotional outburst to it. It's both controlled and yet emotionally very, very, you can feel it. There you go. I need a thesaurus, don't I? Of course, the other members are doing a great job as well, but I thought that those were the two elements that really stood out for me. But yes, overall, Band-Maid are showing their ability to understand and convey the emotion of a song in the way they play it, not just playing technically, but also playing with feeling here. So all in all, Isle is one of those songs that I don't think it's going to be a big favourite for people who are really into super technical playing, as I mentioned, but I think it's going to be one of those songs that every time you listen to the record, it's always going to be a pleasant one to come back to. It just conveys what it wants to convey so well, and in a very sort of direct way. It's a sort of song that would be easy to re-listen to, and yet at the same time somewhat emotionally resonant in moments where you are just in the right mood for that kind of song. It's a song that I felt really had a good personal vibe to it, even though I couldn't find any lyrics that I could easily interpret for this. It feels personal, and that's interesting. I'm not a huge lyric person myself, although I'm getting more and more into reading the lyrics and seeing what these songs are about a lot of the time. But there's something about a song. A song should be able to convey emotion without you having to read the words. In the same way, you look at things like classical music, with exception to opera, it doesn't have words, but you know what the feeling is. And I often say that a band who can really write a song well is a band who don't have to do anything too complicated to make it clear what the feeling is. It's just obvious. And unless the lyrics come out and I'm totally wrong, I get the feeling that the feeling of this song was very well projected through what we heard. So there you go. That's my thoughts about Isle. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys say in the comments. There will be more of these videos about Unleash, the Unleash EP. We already talked about the song. Anyway, do check them out. Please subscribe if you haven't already so you can see them all. Blah, blah, blah. YouTubery stuff. YouTubers can usually talk. And until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these, for now, ciao, ciao.